Now, vitamin D is closely related to steroid hormones, making it absolutely distinct from other micronutrients. Moreover, the predominant source of vitamin D is through the synthesis in the skin when exposed to adequate ultraviolet B rays from the sun. A vitamin D precursor in the skin is converted to pre-vitamin D3 and subsequently converted to vitamin D, which then enters the bloodstream. Let's take a deep dive to understand vitamin D and how it's important in overall human function. Now, vitamin D might also enter the bloodstream through absorption of food. So some sources of food are cereals, meat, fish, fortified milk, milk products, eggs, and fat spreads. Now, vitamin D found in food both include D3 as well as D2. However, it is the vitamin D3 that mostly contributes to vitamin D status. Now, one of the main roles of vitamin D is to regulate calcium absorption into the bloodstream through the intestines, thereby maintain normal blood calcium level. However, vitamin D receptors are found in various different tissues throughout the body, and that's why vitamin D is important for numerous functions such as regulation of immune function, protection from infections and diseases, muscle function and repair, and brain development and function. Did you know there are over 1 billion people on the planet that actually suffer with vitamin D deficiency? It is that common and prevalent. We said it is an exception to all other micronutrients. Like we spoken earlier, you can get it through absorption of food, but 80% of vitamin D in the body is achieved through the synthesis in the skin after exposure from the sun. Now, when the exposure to sunlight is limited, within the body production of vitamin, which is called the endogenous production of vitamin D, is limited. During winter and spring month, if you live in northerly climates where there are more overcast conditions, so I was in Vancouver and I saw the weather over there, there's a high likelihood that you could be deficient in vitamin D. So apart from cloud cover and latitude, sunscreen use, covering yourself when you go out in the open, living and working indoors, all increase the risk of vitamin D deficiency. Now, multiple studies demonstrate that athletes are no different when it comes to vitamin D deficiencies. So when exposed to risk factors that I just spoke about, many athletes across various disciplines are reported to also be in high risk of vitamin D deficiency. That's why it is paramount to optimize vitamin D status all year long. Now, to correct for low vitamin D levels, first of all, you need to get a blood test done. Following confirmation of vitamin D levels, 1000 IUs to 4000 IUs per day is a very good range to be in for oral consumption. So if vitamin D status cannot be determined by a blood test, a practical strategy to prevent deficiency in vitamin D is to seek safe sun exposure. This means just don't burn yourself during the summer. This involves exposing your arms and your legs for 15 to 20 minutes every day, depending on the skin color, obviously. Another practical strategy that you can implement is taking 2000 IUs of vitamin D supplementation per day in the winters. Now, as you can see, these are the concentrations in the body. If you lie anywhere, would tell you better about the level of vitamin D in your body. Vitamin D status is indicative of calcium absorption and bone mineralization, and there's a wealth of evidence describing the relationship between vitamin D deficiency and bone health, particularly in non-athletes. It is possible that the osteogenic stimulus of weight-bearing activities associated with athletes compensate for lower vitamin D concentrations, which may account for poor association between bone mineral density and vitamin D in athletes. Now, it is important to ensure that athletes are not clinically vitamin D deficient, and it may be important to assess this in symptomatic athletes, such as those prone to stress fractures. That could be a sign that you're deficient in vitamin D if you're regularly getting stress fractures. Now, vitamin D is also very important for the immune function. So following injury, the most time lost to training and competition is illness. A key research study in 2011 shows that for every 10 nanomoles per liter increase in 25 hydroxy vitamin D, there's an associated 7% reduction in infection risk. This benefit has also been observed observed in athletic populations, where vitamin D supplementation during 16 weeks of winter training significantly reduced infection risk. Now finally, decrements of muscle function are only observed when athletes present with very low vitamin D concentrations. Now there appears to be no added benefit to muscle when correcting lower levels of vitamin D. Research has also shown that increasing 25 hydroxy vitamin D levels or concentrations greater than 50 nanomoles per liter may enhance muscle repair following injury. Now taken together, athletes should at minimum aim to maintain 25 OHD concentration greater than 50 nanomole per liter. Now before we end, there's one thing I really need to touch upon because I've thrown out some terms here and there, so for you to better understand. Vitamin D2 and D3 are both biologically inactive and require a two-step activation process in the liver to produce 25 hydroxy vitamin D or 25 OHD, and in the kidneys to produce the active metabolite 125 dihydroxy vitamin D or 1.25 OHD. So the active 1.25 OHD then interacts with vitamin D receptors in many tissue organs to regulate different cellular functions. So there you have it, folks. The importance of vitamin D for the function of the overall human body is very important and paramount. You need to make sure that you're on top of your blood samples, your blood checks to see where you lie, and especially if you live in climates where there are mostly overcast conditions or it's colder, there could be a possibility. Also, there are genetic factors that also play a role whether you're more likely to be vitamin D deficient or not. Anyway, athletic function can be improved if vitamin D absorption is adequate and vitamin D concentration is adequate in the body. Consult with your physician, get a blood sample, get started on supplementation if you really require, because vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a hormone. As always, I'll see you next time.